Hi everybody and welcome to the webinar with Centrica. Centrica join us every year so we can learn more about their recruitment process, give you a head start with hints and tips, and this year we'll be hearing from the graduates Andre, Raj, Nebin and Tom and Tara to find out all about their experiences and their time so far at Centrica and also what the future has in store for them. So what we'll do, as usual, we'll start with Katie, who works in early careers, and then we'll move on to the other panellists. So Katie, before we dive in and meet everybody else, let's start with you. Thank you for joining us today. Can you give everybody a bit of an overview to Centrica, please?
Yeah, sure. Before I start, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to GradCracker for having us today. So a massive thank you to Carla and Jess for organising this for us. So Centrica is an energy services and solutions company, and we supply energy and services to over 9 million residential and business customers, mainly in the UK and Ireland. And we do this through strong brands such as British Gas, Bord Gáis Energy, Centrica Business Solutions and Hive. So as many of you might know, we've got a really strong legacy, so 200 years we've been serving people, and our strategy is driven by our purpose, which is to help our customers live sustainably, simply and affordably. So I'll just go into a tiny bit more detail about each of the different businesses. So British Gas, I'm sure, is the main one everyone's heard of. So we provide gas and electricity to your home, but we can also fix your boiler if it breaks down and service it. We've also got Hive, which is our more digital business. So this delivers smart products and services. It allows you to connect your home and make it more secure. So through this, we sell thermostats, plugs, motion sensors. And I think at the moment with Hive, we're really going in the direction of how do we make it more efficient for people to manage their homes with the rising energy prices. So we're really helping our customers do that. And other businesses, we've got Centrica Business Solutions. So this are business to business. So we partner with businesses to help them meet their business goals in terms of renewable energy solutions. And we've also got energy trading, which Tara works in, and we've got our energy supply business. So I think what's really important to say is, obviously, as we've got the rising energy costs and just the pace of change that's happening in today's society, we're really responding to this. So we're helping businesses and households become more efficient by our net zero ventures. So we've recently introduced this in British Gas, and this is a big future plan of ours. So in 2045, we want to be a net zero business, and in 2050, we want to help our customers do the same.
Yeah, huge plans for the future then, Katie, haven't you, as a company? And I think this is something that I love about Centrica, and something that we gather from the webinars every year. It's just how much that you do, and that, people don't know about the Hive and everything else. I'm really excited to find out a little bit more and sharing that information with the students who are watching. And Katie, let's talk about you. So your role at Centrica, what is it that you do?
So I'm early careers specialist here at Centrica, and that's really about supporting managing our graduate programmes, our year in industry programmes, and also summer placements. And what we really want to do is, as the schemes have operated quite separately, it's really bringing them together and creating an early careers function, so we can have a lot more shared learning between the streams and more of a community. I'm from Leeds, so currently living in London, and I'm actually really familiar with graduate programmes myself, as I've just completed the HR grad programme here at Centrica.
Yeah, I know. I remember when you started.
Yeah, I think I did one of these webinars previously, actually. So yeah, it's quite a full circle moment.
We've done it. We've been through it all together, Katie, all together. So you've just touched on your role, so thank you for that. And you touched a little bit on training and development, how that is important to the students. So tell us a little bit more about the training and development process. If students were to join Centrica, what's involved in that?
So a lot of our graduate programmes, you do professional qualifications on the side of that. So our finance programme, you do the ACA, same with some of our other programmes have apprenticeships through them, which I think is really great, because through an apprenticeship, you're getting a qualification, but it really makes you apply it to your role. And that's something really passionate about here. You're not just doing a qualification as a tick box exercise, but really how does it apply to your day-to-day role? And we also do with our grads loads of development activities, so from team building, presenting skills, and also really how to enhance your personal brand, and also just, you know, informal development in terms of like meeting other grads, learning about other streams. I think that's really powerful too. So I think to find out a bit more about training and development, I'd just recommend people to look at the grad profiles on GradCracker, because you know, everyone talks about the training and development side being quite a key highlight on there.
Yeah, definitely. We know it's something that's really important to the students when, you know, me and Jess are speaking to them on campus as well. It's something that they look out for. So what we'll do now, Katie, is just ask you one more question before we go on and meet the grads. So any misconceptions, anything that you come across when you're speaking to grads, placement students, that you kind of want to head off before we start with the webinar?
I think there's two sort of key ones for me. I think the first thing is actually in our name. So I think British Gas, you'd associate quite an unsustainable company, but actually over the last decade, we've cut our carbon emissions by 80%. And it's just really remembering that not all gases are non-renewable. So hydrogen is a renewable gas, and we've got so many programs at the moment that are really, you know, looking into this and net zero. So just a key couple of ones that might interest people. So we're electrifying all of our fleet. So all our field engineers are all going to have electric vehicles, and through Hive, we're now installing EV chargers. We're also a key part of the hydrogen village that's being built in Whitby. So this is going to allow the government to make a decision on whether hydrogen could be used nationally to power homes. And also Centrica Business Solutions is teaming up with a hydrogen tech developer to inject hydrogen into our existing plant in Brigg. So it's really about how do we move away from, you know, how we've previously stored gas to more renewable solutions. So I think that's a key thing. And our CEO Chris O'Shea, who you'll definitely meet in his hoodie and jeans when you arrive at our business, he's really invested in, you know, supporting decarbonised UK, so using more wind, solar power. So I think that's sort of the key one. And then secondly, I know British Gas gets a lot of bad press, but I do genuinely think it's a really great company to work for. I was quite shocked when I arrived just how sort of friendly and welcoming everyone is. We don't have that really sort of strict corporate environment. So I think even though we get a lot of bad press, I do think it's a great company to work for, and really the people here make that.
Yeah, I can definitely vouch for the early careers team, because they are the friendliest bunch. You know, Katie, we've got Jill in there as well, and Claire. There's lovely people who I speak to on a monthly basis at least. So thank you very much for that introduction, Katie. And let's go on and meet everybody else, if that's okay. So we're just going to do a bit of a round robin and just ask where you went to university and what did you study. And Tara, I'm going to start with you, please.
Yeah, hi. So I studied physics at the University of Bath.
Perfect, lovely. And we're going to find out a little bit more, these short instructions, but we're going to find more about Tara and her journey so far a little bit later on. Thank you, Tara. Nebin?
Yep, I studied financial economics at the University of Leicester.
Perfect. Raj?
I studied maths at Lancaster University.
Thank you, Raj. Andri?
I have a master's in physics from the University of Manchester.
Thank you. And Tom?
Hi, I studied in Plymouth University for electrical electronic engineering.
Fantastic. So lots of different backgrounds there, lots of different universities, and obviously disciplines studied in a bit of a variety of bachelor's and master's degrees as well. So what we're going to do now is going to go into a top fact. So normally we're going to talk about a top fact about Centrica, but we've kind of turned this around a little bit, and we're going to ask the grads for a top fact about the scheme that they are on. So Tara, top fact about your scheme.
Good question. What would I say? I guess Katie has kind of mentioned, so I work in the hydrogen unit at Centrica, particularly in the trading department. So I don't know if it's so much of a fact, but I wanted to talk, and I may be a bit late, I'll talk a bit more about that. We are going to be one of the first companies to blend hydrogen into a gas peak power plant and look at decarbonising peak power supply.
Perfect. Well, that sounds very factual to me, Tara, so I'm going to
What
take
is
that
a
one.
peak power plant? Is that just when people need energy off the grid?
Exactly. So one of the maybe I'll go into a bit more detail. So one of the challenges when decarbonising the electricity grid is that renewable electricity is very volatile and weather dependent. And we need to make sure that electricity supply meets demand. So you have these peak power plants that turn on in order to balance the supply and demand. And currently, they're predominantly gas power plants or coal plants. And we're looking at, can they be decarbonised using hydrogen?
Interesting.
Yeah.
If
I
they
wasn't
had a
gonna-
peak plant, I didn't know that would be a thing. But
You can find out more a little bit later.
I know,
on, Jessica.
loads of questions
You
there.
just need to be patient, love, and we'll get back to Tara. Thank you very much, Tara. Nevin, have you got a key fact that you'd like to share with us?
So in the most of the central grad scheme, so I'm in there's different streams within the central grad scheme, and I'm in the commercial. I was in the commercial analyst grad scheme, and then one of the cool things about being in a central grad scheme is that in the span of 2 years, you do rotations of 8 months. So I did an 8-month rotation in the data science team. Then I felt like it was a bit too detailed and I wanted to go really high level. Then I did 8 months the strategy team. And then I wanted to find out a bit more about net zero. Then I did 8 months the net zero team. So I got, technical detail, really high level macro knowledge, as well as sustainability knowledge. So one of the really cool things about the Centrica grad scheme is that you're essentially doing 3 jobs in the span of 2 years. I think there's very little other grad schemes that offer that much, quick change, quick pace. It really is 2 years of like advanced learning, right? Rapid learning. So by the end of those 2 years, you have essentially the knowledge as if you did 3 jobs. So really cool. And
the flexibility is cool as well. You said, I want to try something else, and they allowed you to do that. Perfect. Thank you, Nevin. Raj?
I'm not sure really it's a fact, but what I found interesting was, especially in my role now I work within the British Gas team, so in services for engineers, and you get to see how much detail has gone into all things that you might not consider to be so important, but like how much a phone costs, how much the case costs for the tablet that they use when an engineer goes out, how much are we spending for reliability. So when an engineer goes to someone's house to fix a boiler, you have to consider like, what if they were to hit something and something breaks, or if they scratch the wall. You have to consider all these things, and to have that level of detail, I find really interesting as well.
Yeah, you just don't think about that, do you? You just think that they turn up in their blue vans, and then hopefully they'll fix your boiler or service your boiler, and then that's it for another year.
The cost of the van to get there, how much fuel did it cost? How much electricity it costs to charge the van? The wear on the tires of the van as well. We have to think about that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited, Raj, to speak to you about that later on. Thank you very much, Andre.
So as luck would have it, I was actually part of the same stream and cohort as Nevin. So brilliant. I do want to echo what Nevin has said, but I also want to add that I did a mixture of both analyst and data science roles as well, as Nevin has mentioned. But even in the 2 data science placements I have done, they were still quite different from one another, and the scheme allowed me to focus on my personal technical journey while simultaneously delivering real solutions to the business and feeling like I had an impact even as a grad, which was very rewarding, of course.
I bet, impact from day one is something that our students, look for as well. And last but not least, Tom.
Hi everybody. As mentioned, I'm part of the engineering graduate scheme, and the thing that I think sets Centrica apart from some of the others is the roles and responsibilities you can actually do. So for me, I've worked in a couple of areas of the business, from underneath CBS, doing a little bit of some innovations work. We also get people who design control combined heat and power systems. You can also work in renewables with our company Centrica Energy Assets, building solar farms and battery storage, and we've had graduates who also go and work in the business unit that I'm in, Centrica Storage, who fly offshore and install power generation pieces of kit. So it's an exceptionally vast amount of scope that you can get working on, and you will definitely have an awful lot of development that you can you can get on and do, and I find that quite exciting.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. So before I hand over to Jess, I know you've just looked at the clock. We're not going to be quick. We're going to be quick. Katie. I know she's chomping at the bit. I can see it. Katie, right, opportunities. They're all live on GradCracker, so students can watch this webinar and then go and apply. Tell us a little bit about what you've got on offer.
Right, yeah, so all our applications went live on October the 15th and they'll be live until November the 15th. So what I'd say to people is apply as soon as possible, because once we've got enough people, they might close early. So in terms of our graduate schemes, we've got the DTS software engineering scheme, we've got engineering scheme, which there's 4 different schemes you can apply for. So civil, process, electric, and controls and instrumentation. We've got the finance graduate scheme, commercial analyst graduate scheme, EM&T, so energy market and trading graduate scheme, and we've also got business management, commercial marketing and HR, which I know the latter 3 ones aren't specific STEM subjects, but we still are really happy for people with STEM backgrounds to apply. And if you want to do something different from your degree, we'd really encourage that. So I just wanted to mention them as well. And we've also got our year in industry programs, which are taking applications to the same timelines. And with our year in industry scheme, we've got the commercial analyst scheme, the DTS, software engineering, business management, commercial and marketing and environmental analyst. So the year in industry program is really great for someone who's got that year in industry program at university. So if you want a year's work experience, and at the end of December, we'll be advertising our summer placement opportunities. So these are in the same streams as the graduate programs, except energy, market and trading, we don't have a summer program, and this is a 9-week placement throughout the summer, and it's a really good gateway into the graduate scheme. So if you're do well on the summer placement scheme, then we offer people a position on the graduate program the year after, and I think that's really nice, like going into your last year of uni knowing you've got a job, you don't have to worry about it with your exams. So yeah, those are our opportunities, loads of different streams and loads of different programs depending on what people are looking for.
Yeah, something for everybody, Katie, isn't there? Yeah. So make sure you get your applications in. If you are looking for that summer placement, follow Centrica on GradCracker to be alerted in December when they open the opportunities for the applications for those opportunities. Jess, me and Katie are going to hand over to you now.
Well, I've got one quick question for Katie. Katie,
yes.
The opportunities based across the UK or just more in the areas which you mentioned when you kind of did your introduction?
So our opportunities are all across the UK. We do have flexible first, so we all our applications are like flexible location, but for some placements people might have to move locations. However, we do give people a £3,000 relocation bonus to do that, and to be honest, a lot of our programs are flexible working. A lot of people work from home, so I think don't let location put you off. It is very flexible in terms of home working and going into an office. It just depends on the specific role and stream, and you can ask those questions at the application process time when you get to that stage.
Perfect. Thanks, Katie. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, so I want to find out a bit more about your roles, what you're up to, and really a bit about the team that you've been working in and things like that. So, Andrea, I'm going to come to you first, if that's okay. And if you could just tell us a bit about, like, say, your team, your role, and what you've been up to.
Lovely. So I'm currently a customer analyst for British Gas Energy. My line manager and I work in the contact pillar for the energy customer analytics and insight team. And what we do is we analyze customer contact events. So the work involves working in SQL and Python, as well as having regular meetups with my line manager where we discuss code, logic, solutions, and all that nice stuff.
So in terms of what is it that you actually do? What's the kind of purpose for your roles? Tell us a bit. Is it, you just said just working on the kind of the Hive area, or what kind of area of the business are you working on?
So for British Gas Energy, so I analyze customer contact events. So when data about someone phoning us in or instigating a web chat. What was the issue that we're facing? What can we do with that data to improve the customer experience?
Okay. So what's the things that you've maybe been improving at the moment? What's the kind of current projects? What kind of things have you been improving for the customer?
So I have just started this role a few minutes
Okay.
but for the foreseeable future in this role, I'm hoping to understand better, the timeframes between people doing consecutive calls.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's a big job, isn't it? Then that, just to make sure that I suppose timing and making sure people's time is used efficiently, is that a big part of your role?
Definitely efficiently,
Yeah.
as you said, but it is a lot of responsibility. But I am excited because I have been in the graduate scheme for 2 years now, and it definitely felt like the right time to sort of like expand what I could do.
Sorry, Andrew. So just to go back then, so you see, you've just started this role, but what were your previous roles like then? So I know you said it was quite similar to Nevin, wasn't it?
So I was in the same stream and cohort as Nevin, and I started doing, in my first 8-month placement, as Nevin said, we have 3 rotations.
Yeah.
So initially I was working in an analyst capacity for the revenue protection unit, which is where we detect energy theft, which was very interesting. And I helped them set up their management information suite. So, how their agents are performing, and that sort of, like visual, nice reports, using some nice software to get some nice graphs out. But then I decided that I wanted to be more technical because I definitely had the appetite for it. So I went into data science, and I did 2 data science placements, which basically involves a lot of coding and just working a lot with data, which is the same thing that I'm doing now as well.
Yeah.
So can you see yourself, once you come off the graduate program, do you think you'll stay within this kind of data side of the business, or are you thinking you would still explore again after?
So this role that I'm now is just my first role after the graduate program. So I finished a few weeks ago, and I decided to interview and stay within that same sphere of data analytics.
So does this mean that you've got the same line manager and things like that, the team, location, everything's kind of staying the same within this new role?
So I've been working fully virtual, actually, because I joined the scheme 2020, October 2020. Yeah, that sounds about right. And I've been virtual the whole time. It's not been an issue for the kind of work that I do. And I still am virtual, but we do have monthly face-to-face meetings. And every time it's going to be in a different office across the UK to keep it fair for everyone, basically.
That's cool. Yeah.
It's a different line manager because before I wasn't just in British Gas. I moved in different sections of the Centrica business, but now I am in British Gas Energy. So it's a different line manager, but because I've always been involved with, the insight and analytics, I already knew the person who was my line manager from a previous project.
That's good. That's nice. Yeah. So it was an easier transition, I guess.
Yeah, there's definitely a community as well, like a data science, data analytics community as well. And we have regular monthly meetups where we just discuss solutions and project we've all been working on, and we just share with each other.
Brilliant. Good stuff. Well, thank you very much for that. Raj, I'm going to come to you next. A similar question. If you could just tell us a bit about your current roles at Centrica and a bit about the team that you work in.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm currently in the British Gas Services and Solutions team. So I take care of the field fulfillment OPEX and the home installs OPEX. So what that basically means is the operating expenditure. So how much we spend on engineers when engineers are going out to the field, they're doing home installations. I think there's around about 11,000 engineers in total. So we have to kind of take a lot of big numbers, especially from the role I was in previously. And we're looking at large millions of how much we're spending on like I said things before, is how much it costs to send an engineer out to someone's home. How efficient are they being, and how we can make their life better, how we can promote them and foster a community of success for the engineers as well as people within the corporate structure and finance as well. So one thing we've recently just started is this like a CTAP, so a card payment, and it's a scheme essentially where it encourages engineers to perform more efficiently and to maybe go out and go a bit above beyond and kind of get a score based on how they perform. And so customers can rate them, essentially say, oh, this person did a really good job. And with that, they can actually get a multiplier on how they get like a reward. They can get like a little payout card to dine out somewhere. They can take out if they perform really well, they can take out cash themselves. So essentially, just seeing what all these little things that we're doing, how much it costs us in British Gas, and one project Richard's been given now actually is where can we cut down on some costs? So we have so many tablets, so many devices. Is everything being used to the max efficiency? Could we maybe save some money with somewhere where some things aren't needed, or is there some places where we can't actually control anything at all? So product liability, for example, with how much liability is there when an engineer goes to someone's home, we want to keep that quite a safe number, and so we try to use previous data, analytics, and a lot of everyone's trying to put their minds together so what we can do to perform better as a team.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Do you know, I need to do a shout out because we had the British Gas guy around, I think it was on Monday, and he was absolutely brilliant. It was so efficient. He was just running around
really
and all
good
these
to
things. Honestly, it was absolutely fantastic. And then he had all these shoe protectors and everything on. It was a dream. It was so
Health
good.
and safety is like the core of everything here.
Yes.
It's obviously really important.
Yeah, it was. They were great. Really good experience. So in terms then, you said, Katie, you kind of touched a bit about it, you know, that kind of pressure now in terms as a business to be, you know, carbon neutral. You've got quite a lot of targets that, you know, it's coming your way. And obviously, you know, naturally you want to improve yourself. So, you know, you've mentioned about the vans and things like that being electrics, like vans. So it's how does that cost and stuff like that, which maybe you don't have yet? Are you kind of thinking about the future then with those kind of situations, or are you just kind of looking at the here and now and what your engineers have to do whilst they're out on the road, or do you kind of start to predict about the future as well?
So we currently look at the actual data. So essentially, now that it's the end of October, we're going to be looking at the data that we gathered in October and what we can. So using the actual in the previous months in September and August, we can use this data to see what can we change going forward to make it better for us. So we can see that is it better to change all the, as Katie touched on before, we're in the process of electrifying all of our fleet. So there's a large majority of our fleet are now being electrified in EV, but they're not 100% completely all of them yet. And we're seeing there's a reason for that. Why was it better for the environment to just get rid of all these vans now and to electrify slowly? And that's kind of what part of the analysis is to what is the best long-term effect that we can have, both just for the environment and to have a better greener future as a Centrica, and also what's going to benefit our engineers as well. As you can imagine, changing a van for an engineer is not as easy as just they get out one and jump another. It has to maybe consider a customer they're going out for and how we can make as smooth a transition as possible.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. And again, it's stuff that you don't necessarily always think about, do you? You know, you think, you know, oh, yeah, it's just change it. But no, it's not as easy as that. And you've got to make, you know, you've got so many people to make happy, haven't you? You've got your own engineers, your own team, but also your customers as well. So, yeah, really interesting. So thanks, Raj. Nebin, I'm going to come to you, if that's okay. Similar kind of question.
Yeah. So my current role is net zero consultant. So my job is to help businesses decarbonize. Right. So I essentially build a end-to-end strategy, plan, roadmap, right, of how they can get from where they are right now to completely net zero.
So then, do you actually ever help Centrica as a business? Because surely you do ever work with customers think, oh, actually, that's quite a good idea. I'll feed that back to our own business. Or does it not necessarily work like that?
No, so my team is relatively new. So we're external client-facing consultancy, right? So obviously I work quite closely with Tara, you know, focusing on what we can do with Centrica as well. But my team specifically focuses on how can we help other businesses, right, who want to reach net zero, but that may not know the directions or the steps they need to take to reach there, right? We help them in that way.
Brilliant. So in terms of the clients then, do they vary? Do you have multiple clients to look after at one time, or is it kind of one client, one project, you kind of sort them and then move on? How does that work?
So we're a pretty small team right now. So we try to tackle it one at a time. Over the last year, we've focused predominantly on UK businesses, but currently we're going a bit more global. So currently I'm working with a client that has a global footprint. So they have sites in America, Germany, the UK, Asia. So so our focus has been predominantly UK in the past, but I think we're reaching out more globally now.
Yeah. Do you see similar challenges nationally as well as internationally, or do you find, are you learning that it's kind of different challenges as you go further afield and looking after, say, clients in America or wherever?
Yeah, that's a difficult question to answer.
Again,
because,
so early on.
Yeah, so net zero, it's a very complex topic, right? It's very politically intertwined. So you have to look at the political landscape of Europe, America, Asia. What are their targets? What's policy telling us?
Yeah.
What's technology in those regions, right? And how much pressure are businesses in those regions to decarbonize, right? So in the UK, we probably have a bit more pressure, and in Europe in general, compared to, say, the Americas or Asia, right? Because we're trying to drive that zero policy aspect, at least from a government perspective, right? So you have to handle it differently depending on the region.
Absolutely. So that must be really interesting for you now to kind of starting to learn that, because like you say, it's not just, you can't just go and say this method works here, so it's going to work there. It's a whole new ball game every time. So I bet that is really, really interesting. And how long have you been in this role then? How old is the team?
So the team is probably about a year and a half old. But I've been in this role. So this was my third placement in the grad scheme. So I was here as a net zero analyst. And then, I really liked what I was doing. So I became a consultant here. So I've been, as a consultant, I've been here for about 3-4 months.
Brilliant. Good stuff. So in terms of what life is a bit like for you as an individual then, so for example, what's the team like? Again, I'm guessing it's quite small. Are you working remotely? What's it looking like for you?
So 2 months ago, there was about 4 of us. In September, we grew quite largely. So now there's about like 12-13 of us, and we've become a multidisciplinary team. So we have a group of engineers, group of analysts, and then I have like a small net zero team with me. So we each kind of pitch in to the overall net zero strategy. The engineers go into the client site, right? They actually look at their roof space, they look at what's their boiler situation, they look at what we can turn from fossil fuel to renewable sources, right? And then I focus on the policy, strategy, and the modeling aspect. So I run simulations. So they'll give me a couple of solutions, and I run simulations on, what is the cheapest, quickest, and best way for that client to completely reach net zero.
Brilliant. So Nebin, when again students that are listening, think maybe they might look at Centrica, think, oh God, it's a massive organisation, that kind of stereotype, don't want to be, a small fish in a big pond kind of thing. But really, by listening to your story and your experiences so far, it almost sounds like you're in a startup organisation, doesn't it? And the benefit of it, you've got all this support, around you as Centrica as a business to help and feed into that. Does it feel like that? Because by the sounds of what you're saying, it comes across quite exciting, like you're almost in a bit of a startup.
Absolutely. So one of the really cool things about being with Centrica is, if we look at ourselves as a startup, the fact is Centrica is hundreds of years old. So we have expertise all over the space. So Tara's team specializes in hydrogen, right? And especially UK hydrogen. So I go to her team all the time to give us some insights about, what's happening around the hydrogen space. So we can focus on what we're really good at, which is helping clients. And, I can go to Tara, what she's really good at, which is driving hydrogen in the UK. So it's a really cool space to be in. We get to have that startup feel, but we don't lose out on the other aspects of the full journey.
Absolutely. Really interesting. So thanks, Nebin. Tara, I'm not actually going to come across to you to do that. So if you again can kind of tell us a bit about your role and what you've been up to.
I feel like Nebin's given me a great introduction already.
Definitely.
So I work as a hydrogen and renewables analyst, which is in the hydrogen unit, and that sits within the trading department at Centrica. Although, as you can see, we work with all of the different kind of business units in Centrica. So the main aim of our unit is to sort of develop the hydrogen market and get Centrica involved in projects about hydrogen. And the ultimate aim we see is to hopefully one day see hydrogen become a sort of tradable commodity. From a trading side, it's getting the trading part of the business ready to be able to trade hydrogen. But already our trading business is involved in the kind of hydrogen market through, for example, hydrogen that can be made through renewable electricity. So we have a team in the trading department who provides that renewable electricity for the production of hydrogen. Also, you can trade green gas certificates that are kind of connected to the renewable hydrogen that's being produced. And we have another team in the trading department that does that. So yeah, so generally just stimulating the hydrogen market and getting involved in projects across Centrica within the hydrogen space.
Tara, I have no idea what I'm asking here. I'm going to ask you a question, but tell me if it's a silly one. Is hydrogen almost like the answer to our problems in the future?
That's a very big statement.
Is it?
I think it's I think I see it as part of the solution, and there's, as Nevin mentioned, getting to net zero is a really massive challenge, and it will require a load of different solutions, and I think hydrogen will have a really important part to play in that. But yeah, we're going to see a mixture of solutions come together to achieve net zero.
Absolutely. And the fact that then, you know, big companies like yourself are thinking this way, you know, the stuff that you're going to learn and develop, and, you know, in time, you never know where we'll end up. Fingers crossed in the right place. So, Tara, could you tell us a bit about your team then? And again, what kind of size is it? What kind of people do you work with, and what it looks like there?
Yeah, sure. So, so currently there are 3 of us in the team. It's quite a small team, but as Nevin already alluded to, we work very closely with lots of different teams within Centrica, so it doesn't feel like I only speak to the other kind of 2 people in my team. I'm constantly in meetings and talking to a wide range of people through the business. In terms of kind of my working situation, I sort of come into the office, I think 3 to 4 times a week. So yeah, particularly in the trading department of the business, there's a lot more coming into the office. We've got traders here who need to be in all the time. So it's a very busy and exciting office to be in. So I quite enjoy coming in. Yeah.
Absolutely. And something again, and I hope you don't mind saying, I've said it over the last couple of webinars that we've run, it's just that there's so much change at the moment going on in every industry, isn't there? You know, every industry at the moment is changing. So to me as a graduate, it seems like a really exciting time to be joining organizations like Centrica, because where you guys are going to be in, say, 20 years time, as an individual, you are going to probably be driving that forward and have a lot of the answers to it. So Tara, what does your future, I know we're going to probably come to that a bit later on, but what is your future looking like? And can you see yourself working within this team for the long run now? And is that what excites you?
Yeah, yes. So similarly to a few of the others, I've now rolled off the graduate scheme and have decided to stay in this hydrogen unit permanently. But the team that I'm in, I think, started about 10 months ago or so. So I think what I've learned is that, to be honest, I have no idea where I'll be in 10 years. But that kind of worries me less now, knowing that the job that I'm doing right now didn't exist only a few months ago. And so how am I meant to know where I'll be in 10 years? But in general, I think working in the renewables and decarbonisation of energy space is a really exciting place to be, and I feel like we're at the start of something really exciting. So yeah, I hope my career kind of stays in that general area.
Yeah, me too, because it sounds like everything that you are all doing. Tom, I'm going to get to you next. I'm sure you're doing something just exciting, but thank goodness there is people doing what you guys are doing on a daily basis and hopefully sorting it out. So brilliant. Tom, I will come to you next. Is it okay, again, if you could just tell us a bit about your role and what you've been up to?
Yes, so I'm a project engineer for Centrica Storage Limited. So we store and produce natural gas, and I've been doing it for the last 40 years. And we have an offshore reservoir which is near Hull, basically in the north of England, about 30 miles off the coast of a little town called Easington, which is where we have a gas terminal, and we're going to be by about 2030, somewhere around then, looking to repurpose this for a hydrogen storage field. So the actual East Coast cluster around Hull is trying to put in like hydrogen pipelines, carbon capture kind of pipelines in terms of like hydrogen storage, and it's basically being repurposed. A little bit what Tara and Nevin alluded to with basically the hydrogen kind of transition as part of it. But what I specifically work in brownfield large capitalization project. So I look at somebody comes along with an idea, basically a scope, and I will see that from initial concept to design to construction, commissioning, and through to execution. And that will vary depending upon what it would be. So that might be like fire and gas detection, because one of the things that was mentioned before is Centrica is very, very important to work safely. Where I work onshore and offshore is a large, it's called a COMA site, so control of major accident hazards. We've got quite a lot of nasties, and we don't want to blow them up. So what we make sure that we do is install like fire and gas detection. We need to make sure that we're metering things effectively and safely. So we've got very, very high stringent controls on, ignition, so we can't have mobile phones and stuff like that on site. And things such as that. We're also looking at things like power generation. How are we sourcing our power? So for instance, for offshore, you can't exactly run a cable in there very easily, so you've got to install that offshore and make sure that it's actually running. So yeah, that's what I look at. So looking at large capital projects, the team that I work in is about 10 people typically, but the actual company is about 200-300 people, and it very much does vary depending upon what we're actually doing. So when we have a construction project, we'll use vendors and contractors to actually do the building construction design, and we will basically manage that, oversee it from a technical and project management perspective.
Very interesting.
I need to ask Tom a question. Are you actually based in Easington then?
I'm based at I'm based at Hessel in Hull / to Easington, and then occasional bits to offshore.
I'm about 10 minutes away from you, love.
Oh, you should come for a site visit sometime.
Oh, don't say that.
Yeah,
Jess will be there.
That's on, won't we?
Yeah, absolutely fine. Jess, you can stay at mine. We're going to come see you, Tom.
Oh, we'll do that. Drop me a message afterwards. We'll organise that.
Yeah, I'll love a site visit.
We'll be coming.
Is it, I'm in my diary now for tomorrow. Sorry,
so,
Jess.
Tom, you mentioned about like the onshore and offshore stuff. It's always interesting, probably because the history of Gradcracker and things like that. The offshore stuff has always interested me. If you could tell me a bit what your offshore world is like. Are you talking offshore kind of wind farms? Are you talking offshore like oil rigs?
So offshore oil rigs / gas rigs. So we've got an offshore platform that's permanently manned, basically taking gas in and out of the ground. With everything going on with Ukrainian gas prices, at one point in time it held 90% of the UK's gas storage in terms of capacity. So it's quite a large asset in terms of significant structure to the UK. So yeah, this basically operates and stores gas on a massive reservoir. So if you're talking about, like, if you roughly know the height of the Shard, about 9 times down is the depth of the reservoir from the sea level. Wow. So it's relatively far down, and there's offshore wind farms like Richley right next to it. So you can see that there's a lot of transition that's been occurring in the industry. But yeah, it's permanently manned, storing gas in and out for the last 40 years. But one of the things we're looking to do is to repurpose it for hydrogen storage. It's one of the only fields in the world that's basically capable of doing it as part of the East Coast Cluster and decarbonisation.
Again, so sorry if this is a stupid question.
Go for it.
So the field that you have offshore, basically what you're saying is you're going to fill that with hydrogen?
In principle, yeah.
That's the plan.
In principle, yeah.
And then you feed that then back into...
Yeah, so I think one of the things that Tara was alluding to, is hydrogen is one of the many pathways that we need to get towards net zero. But a great example is got a lot of wind turbines, we've got a lot of solar panels, but we have a lot of like demand side response around the UK. But if it's too windy, we might not have the capacity to store that. So one of the very simple principles is to have some electrolyzers, let those wind farms run, have some electrolyzers, basically 2 big probes that zap water together, generate hydrogen, and then store it in an offshore field. And then when it comes to winter, do a kind of reverse, very high level.
I wish I was an engineer.
You could be an engineer. Some of the questions that you ask them just be like blown away.
These guys are probably thinking of stupid questions.
I think you've got a second job as an engineer.
I wish. Definitely not clever enough. Definitely failed maths at GCSE. Anyway, moving swiftly on, let's talk about projects. I know we've talked a bit about projects, but maybe the favourite projects you've worked on. Maybe it doesn't have to be in a role that you're currently in.
Yeah.
So far, and again, it doesn't even have to be work related. Have you done anything outside of working in Centrica as part of a group or whatever? But we will come to that a bit later on. But anyway, I'll come to you, Andrew, if we could answer that one first, if that's okay.
A project I was involved in that I think was my favorite experience in the graduate scheme as well. It was bringing into production this novel approach for customers that were looking to move home And it was a very technical project, and it was my first introduction to using big data tools.
Okay.
So for a company that's as big as British Gas, as you can imagine, it's not just enough to use normal coding solutions. You sort of like need something to help you process large amounts of data, right?
Yeah.
And so I got exposure to big data tools through this project, and it took up the entire duration of my data science placement because there's just so many requirements that need to be met, like legal and technical as well, before the business allows for something to be put into a production environment.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I had to actually move on to my next placement because it was still ongoing after the 8 months, and I think it still is, I carried with me all the knowledge I acquired, and I was also able to be trusted with more technical projects into my next placement because my next line manager had known, oh, Andrew had done this before, so it means she can handle going a step beyond this time in my placement.
Yeah.
And I did continue delivering on these deep analysis solutions, and I even got to dabble in creating my own machine learning model eventually, which was something that was a personal objective of mine ever since I graduated university. So I was very excited to be able to get to that point.
Yeah.
And the machine learning model, it was about focusing customer metrics. And although, it wasn't something that was up to a completely professional standard, it was just something I, as a grad, wanted to do. And I'm really hoping that I can carry this momentum forward into my new role.
Absolutely. And how great is that you've been given the time to be able to do that, as well. If you're interested, you're passionate in something, if you can flag, to your line manager, whoever, they've obviously given the time to do that, which is great. So can you use that then in other elements of the roles that you kind of go into now? Are you allowed to pick that back up? Is that the plan?
Yes, definitely. So what I do is usually I have like my own personal code repository. So
Okay.
when my current line manager says, I think we should try, thinking about this topic,
Yeah.
I come and I say, hey, I already have some code that we can just transfer with a few modifications, and we can just like try and improve and tweak. And that's actually something that I'm hoping to be doing in this role as well.
Because you could then develop something which then you could use across large scale, across the whole business. You're like, I've got the answer.
Exactly. So even if, I did something as a grad while I was still learning, so, it's not following entirely best practices, I can still go back to it, right, as a non-grad, and just like improve on it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well done. I like that. I'd be like, can I have the royalties now, please? It's been rolled out across the whole business. Next on my list. Where is my list? Raj, you're next on my list, my love. Similar question. Favorite project, if that's okay. I can't believe
within my two
sorry.
So in my two roles in finance, I've not actually had the opportunities. I've not actually had any proper projects as such, because my role's been quite routine based. So it's similar things I do on a month-to-month basis. But because of that, my managers have both given me opportunities. And similarly with the grad scheme, you have a lot of opportunities to go outside of the day-to-day role. So something I've done was the assessment center for the summer interns. I was one of the facilitators for that. So if anyone's thinking about applying, I might be there on the call while and trying to help. Is just trying to help people be at ease, trying to give them like it's just a really informal tour, just to kind of get everyone a bit more comfortable, and get everyone just to, here's what the day's going to be like, and just kind of get people feeling at ease, so they're not really got that pressure of, it's a corporate, trying to show like a younger side than what a grad life is like at Centrica. And not even just that, I've done volunteering as well. And I think it was really interesting. I actually went to a local school in Windsor, and there was a lot of year sevens. They had to it was like a dragon's den, or they called it lion's den. And they had to make an idea with £15,000 to how to make a greener world, essentially. And some of these year sevens were so creative. And I think one of them came up with an underwater theme park. So that's all built underwater, that moves on the seabed and cleans up as it moves wrong, all for £15,000. So they've got really big ideas. And it was really interesting, because you hear some of these year sevens ask really technical questions, like, why are you going to build an infrastructure for £15,000? And I'm like, I would never have thought of that. These questions and these phrases coming out with, it's really interesting. But I think that's what I really appreciate, to have opportunities with lots of different things to be able to do, not just within finance, but within Centrica as a whole.
Yeah. Did you give them the money, Raj? Did you say you can have the
Yeah, I like the how out of it, out of the box thinking that was. So I think they were my feelings.
Oh, good.
That's really good. And again, it's great from Centrica point of view that you know, giving back to the young ones, you know, because ultimately talking of pipelines, they're your kind of pipeline of talent coming through, aren't they? You know, you want to inspire and enthuse, so definitely get them thinking like that. So well done for getting involved, Raj. And all any students listening, make sure if you do see Raj on your induction, you give him a shout and say hi. You on the webinar. I'm sure you'll get it. I'm going to kind of skip a few questions. I know we haven't got long. So Nibbur, I'm going to come to you a bit about your future, if that's okay. I'm going to ask you the future question and what your future is looking like. I know, again, it's a really hard question to ask. It's a bit like Tara said, you never know, you know, what's going to happen in the future and, you know, what you guys are going to develop, especially in your roles. But, you know, what is the plan? Do you have a 10-year plan, if you can have one?
Unfortunately, I don't have a 10-year plan. I don't even think I have a next week plan just yet. But I'm very optimistic and very, very excited. I think the space that I sit in right now, it's so ever changing. Things I learned last year are no longer applicable, right? Compared to this year, right? What was happening in the net zero space, what we knew 5 years ago, it's completely different to, you know, 2022. And what we're going to find out in 2025 is going to be completely different. So first of all, I'm very optimistic. As more businesses choose to tackle climate change and start to become really serious about it, right? They're going to need guidance. So it's going to be a lot of work for me and my team going forward. Yeah, I'm very excited about, I'm really into technology and like future stuff, right? So I'm very excited into, you know, how exactly do we develop the hydrogen market? How do we, what's the best way to store hydrogen, right? How do we bring down the prices? It's super expensive right now, right? So I think very, very excited in terms of work, right? Because I think we're going to have a lot of key challenges coming forward. And I like challenges, I like problem solving, right? And I think that in terms of problem solving, there's going to be a lot of problems, a lot of opportunities to solve them. So very excited. Absolutely, definitely. I love that. That's such a good answer as well, because you know what, it makes you feel a little bit better listening to you guys, that it is going to be all right. Because there is so much negativity out there and you don't hear, and to hear from people like yourself who are actually going through it, doing it on a day-to-day basis. And, you know, change is happening and it's coming, and it's fantastic that, again, you're plowing so much effort into the change. And then so just to add to that, like, part of it is that, you know, what we do is very purposeful, right? We're actively trying to tackle something that it's probably the biggest challenge for humanity, right? For the past like 500 years. So being and doing something very purposeful, pushing the boundaries of that, it's a very exciting space to be in. And just to kind of bring back to you, Katie, that's kind of thing that I'm guessing you would want to see in an application, isn't it? You know, if you've got that that passion, that enthusiasm to make a change, ultimately, you know, that's the kind of stuff you want to see in people's application, isn't it?
100%. I think it's all about, you know, people challenging, you know, the current way of doing things, bringing in all that knowledge they've had through university and really applying that. And that's something we really encourage our graduates to do, you know, be yourself, speak up, and really it's just bring ideas forward, because Centrica, obviously we've existed for a really long time, and I do think it's just a natural sort of cause of people stay in jobs and work the same way, but it's really, you know, grads like fresh talent really bring in those new ideas. So yeah, completely agree.
And it's interesting, so Nevin, when you said how, you know, what you learned last year almost isn't relevant now. So almost no kind of question, no answer at the moment is a silly one, isn't it? Because you got to think, you know, what could be silly now actually could be the answer in a year's time or whatever. So absolutely. Tara, I'm going to come to you next, if that's okay. Anything you could give an example of any kind of, I keep saying extracurricular, but that's totally the wrong word, and in networking groups that you've been involved in whilst at Centrica?
Yeah, so there's a lot going on in my department. I admit I'm not the most sporty person, but I know there's a football team and a cricket team and all sorts. There's loads to get involved with. And it's a great atmosphere of early careers and graduates. So often we're out for drinks on a Thursday evening and that kind of thing. Great atmosphere. I'd also say, So I think Centrica offers, you can do 2 days of volunteering a year, which doesn't come out of your kind of annual leave. For one of those days, I had the opportunity to help at a kind of getting girls into STEM subjects at school and university. And I think it's great that Centrica allows you to kind of go and do those volunteering activities. And it doesn't eat into your leave.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's a great way for if you're in quite a small team like yourself, you go meet new people.
Yeah, exactly. So that thing was actually in Hull, working a lot with the Centrica storage parts of the teams. It was great to meet a whole cohort of colleagues who I'd never met face to face before for that event. Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. Well done, Tara. And Tom, you can answer any question you want, really, because I've kind of smashed through them now because I've panicked about time. So your future, any extra stuff you've been doing?
That's all right. It's nice to know that Tara went to the Learn Hull. I know a lot of people who went to that one, so that was great fun. No, it's nice to get to do the volunteering one. I went to a STEM event in Scunthorpe, and this week on Monday I went to Easington Primary School Village doing basically a clearance down in their meadow. So it was nice to be able to give back and do a little bit of giving back to the community. I would say one of the highlights to the guys and girls on the call is with Centrica, we are in different streams in a different location, but there is quite a good sense of community. It can be quite scary to come out of university. Some of you will have done work, some of you will not have done work, but there's a lot of people here all in the same boat. You can do house shares together, you can go to the pub together. We had Domino's and other pizza venues available, by the way, with a whole bunch of them yesterday. And it's just nice to be able to do things with people. We often do training, so you might be based remotely, but then you get to come down to London or to Windsor all together to do some kind of training course, be it discipline specific or stream specific or just quite generally. So there's a lot of good and a lot of fun that can happen on the scheme separate to the actual day job.
Yeah, which is great. And then again, it's that idea of working as a team, isn't it? And where your paths might not cross with other people, where you might not pass with Raj, for example, but the fact that you're all pulling in the same direction, you might be doing different things, which is great to see and come across.
Jessica, we need to talk to Katie about the application process. We've inspired people to apply, but now they need to know how to apply.
Yeah, that's really important. Go.
Are you sure? Am I allowed? Katie's been muted and on mute. No, not Katie. Right, let's talk. I mean, fantastic journeys that we've had so far from these grads. So how do students apply? Obviously, you mentioned the roles live on GradCracker. The click apply, take us through the journey.
Perfect. So first stage is you'll just complete the application form and submit your CV. So I think in that, just really get across, who you are, your experiences, and things like that. That's just sort of the initial stage. Then after that, you'll be asked to do some online questionnaires. We don't really like to call it tests, but it's numerical and verbal reasoning. So here I'd just say, make sure you've done a few practices before. I think a lot of early careers programs ask for these tests, so I'll just say practice, and there's a lot of websites you can do that on. After that stage, we've got a telephone interview, so we'll just put in a quick call to find out more about you, why you're interested in working at Centrica and why you're interested in that specific program. So again, I think just do your research and really show your passion, because we want people like, I think everyone on this webinar is really evident, who are really passionate about our industry and really driving us towards a future of net zero. After the telephone interview, it's a video interview. So this is more competency-based questions. And with our interview, you'll record your answers. So it's not like a virtual call, you record your answers, which I think helps put people at ease a bit, because they've got, a few chances with that. So just make sure in a quiet space, really concentrate, and then after that it will be the final stage, which is the assessment centres. So all our assessment centres are going to be virtual this year, but that involves a group exercise activity and meet the manager. So to give a bit more context on that, you'll get a brief, you'll get like 20 minutes to absorb the information, and then you'll present back depending on the questions, and then you'll have a face-to-face interview. So it sounds like a lot, but just to put people at ease and reassure them, throughout all the stages our recruitment team will be in touch, giving you hints and tips and really walking you through it. So just remember, we really want you to succeed. You know, we're on your side, and if anyone has any questions about it, I'd say, you know, reach out on LinkedIn. I'm sure some of the guys on the call as well would be happy to give some, you know, hints and tips. And it's all really just about putting your, you know, best foot forward and really trying to just sell yourself, even though it is, you know, really nerve-wracking. But we want you to succeed. So I think that's important to remember.
Yeah, we're all behind you, aren't we, at the end of the day? And timescales, Katie. So obviously they might have been successful. When are you hoping to hold the assessment centres?
So the assessment centres will be December time, around the start of December, and then after you've done an assessment centre, you'd find out within a week's time period.
Yeah, so quite quick turnaround. Yeah, and like Katie mentioned at the beginning, don't forget that the majority of the opportunities are currently live on GradCracker. So all of the graduate schemes are currently live, all of the industrial placements are currently live. So get your applications in sooner rather than later. As Katie mentioned, they will be closing. So if they get enough applications in before the 14th of November.
Yeah, 15th, but I'd say get them in ASAP.
Yeah, apply sooner rather than later. And then just to give Centrica a quick follow and to be alerted to the summer placements if that's something that you are interested in December. But for now, thank you everybody for joining us as part of this webinar. Tom, I'm going to be in touch to arrange our visit. You've said it live, so you can't go back on your word now. I'm excited about that already. And next week we are going to be joined same time, same place by Tarmac. So see you then. But thank you very much today to Centrica. It's been brilliant. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
For having us, and good luck everyone with the
applications. Yeah, good luck, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.